Visit findyourmbcvoice.com to find your strength,
up on Facebook.
to find your community,
Are we up?
find your MBC
we're on
voice.
CGO.
Hi, this is Marta Keene, the Will County Recycling Specialist, and you're listening to Smart Talk. The Mike Nowak Show starts in 3, 2, 1.
They can do that. Google it.
It's the Mike Nowak Show with Peggy Malecki. Green, gardening, and environment radio, flavored with a dash of humor. Welcome to intelligent, irreverent talk about plants and the planet they grow on. Your questions, comments, and participation are always welcome at 877-711-5611.
Good planets are hard to find. Temperate zones and tropic climes. And true currents and thriving seas. Wind blowing through breathing trees. Strong ozone and safe sunshine. Well, good planets are hard to find. Good planets are in demand.
This hour is brought to you by Bartlett Tree Experts. Every tree needs a champion. Go to bartlett.com.
Jet streams, perfect air.
And here they are, Peggy Malecki and Mike Nowak.
Well, good planets are in demand. Right.
Right. Hey, and welcome to the show. We're back. And
You don't get rid of us that easily.
And look, I have a new, speaking of back, behind me, my back is a new background.
Wow.
We've moved to a different part of the house. I got tired of, I don't know.
Holding the umbrella over your head?
Yeah, holding. That's right, because we had the umbrella to block out the skylight. So we thought, okay, come on, let's go to this side of the room. It's prettier anyway, and I got a couple of plants.
ZZ back there?
That's my ZZ plant, which is doing great. Diane Blazek, have you ever grown a ZZ plant?
I don't think I have. Tell me more.
Oh, you got to get one. It's a challenge. The challenge is to not water it, not to water it, but to not water it, because you'll kill a ZZ plant by watering it. All right. And then Peggy, look behind you. That's the plant you gave me earlier this year.
Oh, nice. That's looking good.
It's great. It's doing well, and I thank goodness I still have the tag. It's the Scilla violacea. So it's a wonderful, and it bloomed earlier in the year. It seems to be doing great. So I haven't killed that one yet either. So I got them all. Yeah, I know. I get 2 dings.
You get a ding for that, yes.
And let's check to make sure that the other part of the setup is working. No, it's not. Okay. And it worked yesterday. I had that all set up. Oh, I know why it isn't. I'll tell you why. And I can't do that right now until I turn off the sound from the Facebook because that's...
Should Diane and I just talk amongst ourselves?
No, that's okay. All I got to do... Okay, I've got the Facebook sound turned off, so that's good. So I can go back to this thing that I was running because let's do this. Great. And now try this. See, we're all at home, folks.
Lawns are a soul-crushing time suck, and most of us would be better off without them.
Okay, there you go. Now, and Diane, you don't have to adhere to that philosophy, okay?
My lips are sealed.
Yeah, I know, because some people love their lawns. Too many people actually love their lawns. But hey, you're with the National Garden Bureau, and we're going to get to Diane Blazek in just a second because she is the executive director of the National Garden Bureau and other things. But mainly National Garden Bureau today is what we're talking about. But I want to let people know before we go any further that tomorrow, and if you're listening a week later, because some of you get this show on tape delay, although there's no such thing as tape anymore. But tomorrow, the 24th of August, I'm doing a garden tour in my own backyard. It's going to be streamed live right on these very Zoom networks. And it is courtesy of the Commerce Township Community Library. Now, that's in Michigan, near Ann Arbor and Pontiac. in that general area. And the reason this is happening, because I spoke to them last year, and my niece works there. And Alexis, I don't know if you're listening, but I'm waving if you are. And she set it up, and she said, hey, would you do a Zoom presentation for us? And I said, why not do a garden tour? And it didn't get set up until tomorrow, which is the 24th of August. And, you know, at that point, Diane, you know this, being a gardener yourself, and Peggy, you know this. Mm-hmm. At this time of the year, gardens are sometimes a little iffy. They're a little overgrown, and
mine's crispy.
I've been tending mine because I knew I had to do, you know, a little extra water. I don't really like to water if I don't have to. But if people are going to be watching, and the tomatoes need to look good, and not just the tomatoes, the native plants and all the other stuff that I've got in the yard. So I'm doing that tomorrow at 5 p.m. Central Time, 1 hour, 5 p.m. to 6. It's free. And you can sign up. Now, I know we've had this on Facebook, and I've been posting it on Facebook. I'm going to post it on Twitter. A lot of you don't like social media, and that's okay. I put it on the website too. So you can go to mikenovak.net, and right at the top of the page on the right side, you will see visit Mike's Garden Online, ! And there's the information. You have to register because they're going to send you a Zoom invite. And then that's all there is to it. And then you come by at about 5 p.m. tomorrow, Central Time again.
Can we bring a beverage?
You can bring whatever beverage you want. Just don't leave your mic on while you're having the beverage. Okay. That's probably a good thing. Yeah. That's one of the things you learn about Zoom conferences, especially if it's a presentation. Everybody else has to turn off their videos and audio signals because it just sucks up bandwidth. So if you're doing that tomorrow, you will probably be asked to do that. But you can type in your comments and questions, and cool. There you go. So I'm very excited about it and happy to help out my niece. So let's get to Diane Blazek, the Executive Director of the National Garden Bureau. Thanks again for being on the show. You guys are celebrating a big anniversary, aren't you?
We really are. 100 years. I would say 100 years is something to be recognized, right? Yeah.
Yeah. That is something. Tell us just a little bit about the origin of the National Garden Bureau.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. It was founded actually here in Chicago, so it's nice that 100 years later we're still based here in Chicago. We've had a number of executive directors over the years, and sometimes it was run out of people's homes in California or Pennsylvania or something. But yeah, for our 100th anniversary, we are here in Chicago. It was started by James Burdett, who was a journalist, and he also worked for seed companies. So his whole thought was, we need to educate homeowners more about their gardens. And so he founded National Garden Bureau on that premise. And that's still what we're doing today, is we're inspiring and educating.
You know, he was the perfect combination for this organization. Not only... Yeah. He runs a seed company and he's a journalist. I'm like, okay, that works. Let's take those two things, put them together, and we can, and no wonder the organization has lasted 100 years. But then in World War II, which leads into another initiative you're working on right now, this same guy was still around and he was still leading the organization. Is that right?
Yes, absolutely. He was leading it up until, I believe, sometime in the 50s or 60s. But yeah, nice segue. What he did was he was involved in launching the Victory Garden program in World War I. And then between the two world wars is when he started our organization. So naturally then when World War II came about, he jumped on the bandwagon, wrote the Victory Garden Manual, which I wish I had. It's so old, it's from the 40s, but my book is still intact. So yeah,
you don't have an original version of a copy of this?
I do in my office.
You say you wish you had it here. Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Because I'm at home today. So yeah, I do have it in my office. We've got a picture of it up on our website. Yeah.
Oh, I've got it on my website too. You can scroll down, go to mikenovak.net and look at this week's blog, and you'll see Victory Garden 2.0. And I believe that's the original manual there, right?
Yeah, that's the original manual.
Yeah.
Which I don't know if you can see. I think in the 1940s, it probably sold for like a nickel. And I went on Amazon. I think I had to pay like $68 or something for it.
You know what? That was a bargain. I would think it's $68.
Yeah.
We got like a minute left, but I just wanted to mention something that I'm, and then we'll break and we'll come back. But the other parallel is that he had, and the United States had just come out of pandemic when he started this. So that's the parallel to right now, 100 years later to it. I imagine you guys have thought of that.
Sure. We've thought of that quite often. Yeah.
Well, see, now it's something you get to add and go, and a further parallel is that there was a pandemic in the United States in not 1917, but actually 1918, 1919. And actually it did stretch into 1920. All right. That's Diane Blazek, Executive Director of the National Garden Bureau. We need to take a break, but when we come back, we'll talk more about the work that you're doing, how people can get involved, and then a bunch of other good stuff on the show today. It's the Mike Nowak Show with Peggy Malecki, and we'll be right back. We continue to live in interesting and challenging.
You're clear.
Okay, are we live on Facebook?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so Diane, this is still streaming on Facebook. Just so you know, don't say anything dirty, unless it has to do with soil.
Oh, okay.
But
brown, dirty organisms. Okay.
Right, all that good stuff there. Yeah.
If you need soap to clean it, it's fine.
Have you? I have to ask you. Have you, when you read the Victory Garden Manual, did you get inspired? Are there things in there that apply to today that you were surprised at?
Yes and no. It was kind of fun to look at it and go, wow, they were very regimented. Everything had to be in this big square garden plot and done in rows.
Straight lines, right? Everything, right?
Yeah, exactly. So that was one of the things that I was like, well, yeah, nobody's.
Yeah, my garden fails that.
Yeah.
And that was mine tomorrow. Yeah.
Yeah. And that was the other thing is I felt really inferior. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is what they were saying. And then you would feed your whole family all winter. And I'm like, I'm not accomplishing that. So,
I don't think a lot of people are. I think, but that's, that might be something we should talk about when we come back onto the radio side, because not to be intimidated is a really, really healthy thing when it comes to gardening. Probably pretty much anything in the world. Whether it's home improvement or taking care of your pets or whatever, try not to be intimidated by the people who are juggling chainsaws, flaming chainsaws,
Well, when I was reading the garden survey, which, we may or may not get to, one of the responses of people thought it was too hard. And so, if you're intimidated with that, got to have the straight rows and every plant and it's got to be perfect.
And I was surprised I'm glad you mentioned, and that's what we're going to mention in the second part, is the survey. People who said it's too expensive. And I'm like, come on. It kind of depends on your point of view. You can garden any way you want. You can go full tilt boogie and get every fancy tool and pot and the highest end everything, plants and whatever.
5-gallon shrubs and
or you can start from seed and make your own compost and do it that way. And basically your cost is seed, and seed is not that much.
Right.
Or you can go in the middle, which is you get your little plugs and or your 4-inch pots. And I think that's where most of the people go is somewhere in between. So, okay, we're going to have about a minute, 10 seconds here before we come back. And let's start with the survey.
Okay.
The future of gardening, because I don't even know what the future of gardening is in my own backyard.
No, none of us do.
Yeah.
Gotta ask the chipmunks for that.
She has killer chipmunks in her backyard.
There is literally one staring at me right now.
Oh no.
Right over there.
Oh dear.
Well, there's a wood.
In the past few months, we've all learned how to be smart, indoors and out. Take that one step further by being smart with your recycling too. Don't put personal protective equipment or PPE into recycling bins. Those items can't be recycled by your waste hauler, and you might endanger your sanitation workers. Follow the rules of your local municipality. And please don't throw PPE on the ground. A little common sense and some concern for those around us can go a long way. We're all in this together.
I'm Kevin.
And I'm Sue McCarthy.
Join us for the Travel Planners Radio Show.
Your ticket to the world of travel.
Saturdays 4 to 6 p.m. on WCGO, AM and FM.
I'm a lonely little petunia in an onion patch. An onion patch. An onion patch. I'm a
This is not Chuck Berry.
petunia in an onion patch. And all I do is cry all day.
And I'm sure you're familiar with Arthur Godfrey. I don't know, Diane, is it he before your time?
Yeah, maybe a little.
Not before mine. Welcome back to the Mike Nowak Show with Peggy Malecki. Keep your computer to a dull roar there, Diane, as we move forward. But I'm glad to see that you like your Sunday morning music and it's ready to go at any time. That's Diane Blazek, who is the executive director of the National Garden Bureau, and we're talking about all the good things they're doing to get you interested in gardening. We were talking during the break about something that you guys just completed. By the way, I should mention you're also at All America Selections. That's part of the National Garden Bureau. We're not going to talk about the All America, the AAS, sometimes it's referred to, trial plants that are done each year, and then the best of the best are highlighted. Come 2021, we'll bring you back and talk about the latest and the greatest there. But we were talking about a survey that you just did about the future of gardening. And as I think I wrote to you, I'm just interested in getting through 2020 right now. I mean, to me, that would be really good. Just get through intact. But that's part of your job, is to find out the trends and what people are thinking. So what are people thinking, Diane?
Well, it was interesting because I want to say that we did this survey last October. So it was pre-COVID, pre-pandemic. And now we're reading and looking at the results again, and I'm presenting them in various places, and they're just spot on. You know, I really don't think that anything would change if we surveyed people now. For the most part, what are people saying for the future of gardening is there will be more edibles. Mm-hmm. There will be more and more plants used outside. There was a little bit of a difference, you know, in age groups. The younger group said they would have more edibles, or that's the reason they garden. The older groups were saying that they wanted beauty. They wanted to prettify their home environments.
Interesting. I've gone the other direction. 15 years ago, I was all about the pretty, all about ornamentals. I have switched completely. Not completely, but I've switched into vegetables and growing edible crops. 15 years ago, I grew them just to prove I could. Mm-hmm. Now it's a little more important. So I'm interested that the folks in my generation are going the opposite direction, but then I've always swum against the current.
Yeah. Well, the thing that we have been saying, since the last recession, since, 2008 and 9, we saw a big uptake in vegetable gardening, and then it kind of leveled off. Well, we were really concerned because it felt like a lot of people were saying, I'm going to 100% switch my garden over to edibles. Well, you need those ornamentals to attract the pollinators. Mm-hmm. So we, at that point, kept saying, make sure you have both. Make sure you have some ornamentals to attract pollinators along with your edibles.
Absolutely. Peggy, you were talking about some of the things you noticed in the survey, because Diane was kind enough to send us various versions of it.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that we were talking about earlier with the victory gardens and the rows being perfect and everything having to be well spaced and timed perfectly. One of the responses of the future of gardening was people saying that it was difficult, or the impression that it was difficult.
That gardening is difficult.
That gardening is difficult. I'm just wondering how much of that impression goes back to things like that victory garden, where people presume it's got to be perfect rows, evenly spaced, perfectly weeded, versus more free form, shall we say.
Right. And that's something we talk about too. And Mike, it'll be interesting to see on your walkabout tour tomorrow is, you have social media and you have people on Instagram posting beautiful close-up pictures of their garden or of a flower or a tomato. But if you pan back, you're going to see that the garden doesn't always look perfect, and that's okay. We want people to know that they can fail and that everything doesn't always look perfect.
Yeah, and it's in my yard because I'm in the city. It's an urban garden. I've got, as you know, you talk about dappled shade. I got 3 flat shade, and at certain times of the year, you get no sun. Sun is always a challenge in an urban garden and often in suburban gardens as well. You have to manage sun. And I think the very first thing, we talk about soil, but if you got a house that's surrounded by other houses, I actually think the very first thing you have to do is look at the sun, see what you're dealing with there, and then move on. And then you can plan the rest of it. Yeah.
And the microclimate also caused by having 2 buildings, 3 buildings close together, the sun, the funneling winds.
Yeah, well, funneling winds in your case, but blocked winds in my case. I'll tell you, when the derecho hit last week, I had a couple of tomato plants kind of keel over, but that was it. That was the extent of the damage. Went out, propped them back up, done, and everything was fine. And it's because we're kind of sheltered there, and that's one of the advantages that we have here. Not everybody has that, but we just got a couple of minutes here. I think that's the important thing. The other things you were talking about, cost. And during the break, I was saying there are various ways you can go with the cost. Diane, do you agree with that?
Oh, I totally agree. Right. I mean, I do things very economically. I literally save Greek yogurt cartons, and that's what I start all my seeds in. So you don't have to have a big fancy setup. You can do about anything you want. You can start from seeds, or you can buy, a tomato in a 1-gallon container. You can buy a small shrub, or you can buy one in a big 5-gallon. So, there's something for everybody is basically the message. And there's plenty of information out there to be had. So you just read up and try it. If it doesn't work, you try it again. Gardening is one big experiment.
It is. And that's my advice is just jump in. Just get out there, plant a seed, water it. Not everything is going to go perfectly. And that's part of the challenge. It's like raising a kid. You think everything is going to go great? Oh, it's the same with your garden. It's another living thing. So in about 20 seconds, what's the future looking like for 2021?
Well, there will definitely be more edibles being grown. There was such a huge increase this year that will continue. And then the other thing we kind of alluded to very early is people will still want lawns. They may be a lot smaller than they were in the past, especially like post-World War II, but people still want a little green space for family activities.
That's fantastic. And Chuck Berry was not your fault, Diane. I just found out. So I'm so sorry about that. For all the information about the National Garden Bureau, go to my website, or what's the website real quick?
ngb.org.
Thank you, Diane. We'll be right back.
Mosquitoes transmit deadly diseases like Zika and West Nile virus, but Summit.
All right.
You're clear.
Fantastic. Randall just popped a note up there and he said, sorry for the Chuck Berry. No, and I thought it was coming out of your computer, Diane.
That's okay.
That was actually me. Randall's not in the studio. I'm alone. That was me.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh.
Okay, great. Diane, that was wonderful.
Thank you, Diane.
Thank you. I'll see you in your garden tomorrow.
Oh, cool. All right. Don't be too critical.
Okay.
All right. See you later. Bye-bye.
All right. We are waiting for Ryan and Alec.
Nancy, Kathleen tells me that the broadcast sound is perfect.
Oh my goodness. I have chills. It sounds
Are we
amazing.
Live on Facebook
no,
right now?
I just muted us on Facebook and put a holding screen up. So you guys sound amazing. We still have problems with phone callers calling in, so that's not an issue for you guys today. But we're working on
yes, it is.
Do you want me to? Do we want
Rick DiMaio?
Oh, geez.
Ryan and Alec? Do I need Kayla hunting them down?
Yeah, they should be calling in.
Well, we can't get Alec. I don't have a cell.
Nobody's in the waiting room. I'm so sorry.
All right.
Mike,
Yeah. Call. Don't wait. Just call.
Yeah. Rick DiMaio being on the phone is going to be an issue on Facebook, not on air, but on Facebook. a call into Randall.
Kathleen, I have lost track of my cell phone. Okay, I'll try in there first. It may be in the kitchen.
About a minute 15.
We can still be heard on Facebook, says one of our.
Really?
Yep.
You guys are muted. Oh my goodness, what is going on? Okay. All right.
Are we muted now?
You were muted when I started talking. That's why I'm at a loss.
Where are? Well, I'm going to read the spot to start then.
Yeah.
Okay.
Have we called them? Is somebody calling them?
Kayla. Well, I don't have a phone number on Alex.
I know.
Okay,
And she needs to.
I'm sorry, Ryan's in the waiting room now. Let me get him in.
Okay.
But nobody else.
We'll need to have Ryan.
Okay, he's joining.
Okay.
Second. All right.
There he is.
All right, about 30 seconds.
All right. Ryan, can you hear me?
You're muted.
Yeah.
No, it's all right. You don't need because we got to go back. We haven't heard from Alex, so we don't have a cell number for him. If you can text one of us a cell number, that would be great because we don't see him.
Yeah, I gotta.
All right, stand by. You can mute yourself right now. You've got Peggy or my number, either one. Send us a text.
Has been revolutionizing rehabilitation using zero gravity and scuba therapy to give confidence, independence, self-esteem, and yes, freedom.
We got one. I'm sorry, we have one more minute. So good.
Disabilities. At DiveHeart, we believe in the power of partnership because together we can do great things. Let DiveHeart help you imagine the possibilities in your life. Go to diveheart.org to learn more.
Stay in touch with The Mike Nowak Show. Find us on Facebook and YouTube at The Mike Nowak Show. Use the Twitter handle @MikeNow. Send us a photo on Instagram at The Mike Nowak Show or write to us, mike@mikenovak.net. We're also at thegreendivas.com, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, TuneIn, and on the Smart Talk Radio Network. Podcasts and blog posts are available every week at mikenovak.net. Sign up to get our newsletter on the homepage and support the sponsors who support us. Look for logos and specials at mikenovak.net.
Mike Jackson Outdoors, Sundays, 8 to 9 a.m. on WCGO Radio, 1590 a.m. and 95.9 FM.
Mel.
What's your email?
I love to go wandering along the mountain track. As I go, I love to sing my knapsack on my back.
Let's hear ya.
Waldery, Valerie, Valdera, Valdery, Valerie,
Hey, welcome back to the Mike Nowak Show with Peggy Malecki. That song is in honor of our guest who's standing by right now, Ryan Anderson from Midwest Grows Green. And that's because he told us last year, he said, folks, I don't know if it was earlier this year. I think it was last year. Folks, I'm moving
blends.
Yeah, I know. I can't tell. Pre-COVID, post-COVID, who knows? He said, I'm going off to the Appalachian Trail and I'm going to be hiking the Appalachian Trail. I'll see you in a year or so. And then he writes to us last week and says, that didn't happen because of COVID, right, Ryan?
Correct, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm so sorry you didn't have your opportunity. But like I said, he's a youngster. He's going to get out there and he's going to do it as soon as we figured this out in about 2027. I'm sure that you'll be out there and on the trail. So we will be with Ryan in just a second. And I don't know if you've got the other thing that he sent Peggy. Did you send it to me or to Peggy or Ryan or both?
Both.
Okay, good. So you handle that, Peggy, while I tell folks about something that's going on right now. In fact, what happens when your lilac sale gets postponed by a pandemic? Speaking of pandemics, well, you carefully nurture your plants and reschedule for an online sale in September. The Lombard Garden Club, that's a lousy ding. Let's try that again. There we go. The Lombard Garden Club has a large selection of dwarf, semi-dwarf, and full-size bushes in white, pink, magenta, bluish purple, and the ever popular common purple. I don't know how you can call purple common.
It's purple. Yes.
Here's a bonus. Due to the delay, the plants are bigger than usual and ready for immediate fall planting. That's the good side. Purchase your lilacs online and pick them up at Lilacia Park. That makes sense. In Lombard. And that's September 10 to 12. So go online right now to Lombard, Lombard, lombardgardenclub.org, or click the lilac photo at MikeNovak.net. You'll find it on the right side of the page, and there you go. You can pick some up, and I was looking at them online. They look wonderful. Lilacs, of course, are part of spring for a lot of people. They can't survive spring without the smell of a lilac shrub. So welcome back to the show, and there's Ryan Anderson from Midwest Grows Green. So I'm so glad that you're working with them, and you've got a project coming up where you're trying to engage some local organization, I guess, towns and, municipalities, I guess, right?
Correct. Yeah. Park districts, school districts, municipalities, anybody that manages large swaths of turf grass like sports fields.
Right. And I played the quote about lawns earlier. I won't play it again because you're a guy who works with people on lawns. So tell us what this initiative is all about.
Yeah. So last year we got a lot of demand for transitioning fields to organic or pesticide free, as well as synthetic fertilizer free. And that's all thanks to kind of the work of Stonyfield Organic that had their Play Free program. And so we wanted to address and meet those needs by having these free natural lawn care technical assistance. So we have 2 soil scientists on our team, Vitas Papadinskis and Alec McClennan. Hopefully Alec can join us today. And they're going to be taking some soil tests of these fields. And then this fall, once we select the community that we're going to work with, and then they're going to use those soil tests to come up with a full management plan for those fields so that they can manage these fields for 3 years with no synthetic pesticides or fertilizers.
That's a terrific program. And now, from what I understand, it's not just getting a bunch of names and pulling them out of a hat. You're going to match your skills to the various entities that make an application.
Yeah, correct. Application bit.ly/MGG in caps, and then app APP in uncaps, and then 2020. Sorry, it's
no.
Wait, it's too early on a Sunday for that.
No, Ryan, I've got your back, dude. I've got your back. So you just go to MikeNovak.net, and I've got the link there.
Okay.
So folks can just click on it, go read my blog for today's show, and that link is there. So if you want to get organic, or if you call it natural, some people call it different things, lawn care, and create a couple of fields where they're managed for 3 years without pesticides, without chemicals, just fill out an application, and Midwest Grows Green might help you out.
Yeah, well, it's a Google form. There's 4 questions. One is, what field did you choose, and why did you choose it? So is there any pest and weed problems that we should know? Is it heavily trafficked for sports for different sports? And then we also want to know, how much do you spend each year, so we know the budget that we're working with for that field.
Peggy, you were saying something?
Oh, I was going to say, and they also, in addition to getting the lawn care, you were telling us when we were talking to you to prep for the show that they're going to be getting social media, they're going to be getting education so the community knows what's going on, and a lot of other things. It's not just their lawn.
Yeah.
Building the turf.
Yeah. There's 2 phases that we have for this. The first is what we call an integrated pest management audit. So we audit the whole park district or school district, and that's information is internally for the municipality. And we look at all your practices, and we make recommendations on how to shift your resources to different fields. so that you can manage all the fields technically with no synthetic pesticides and fertilizers. And then the second phase is this 1 to 2 fields that we choose. And then we have those added services of signage, press releases, social media, everything that Midwest Grows Green does really well.
Mm-hmm.
But Peggy brought up a good point, which is that the information can get out to communities so they can do this on their own. It makes me wonder, do you get inquiries from people saying, how do we make the transition? How do we make the argument to the body that controls how our lawns are kept that there's a better way, a safer way of maintaining these fields? You must get those questions all the time.
Yeah, and that's really why we came up with this program, this new Natural Lawn Care Technical Assistance Program, because we're offering these services for free right now for one community, but we hope we're going to get a lot of different applications, and then we can talk to that community and say, we can still give you these services. We'll just have to find some sort of funding either from the municipality or the nonprofits or from a foundation. So that's why we came up with a service. The other thing that we have that came out in January, and I think I actually talked about it on the show, was our new Lawn and Land Forum Toolkit. That's at lawnandland.org. And that has a lot of different case studies of people implementing natural lawn care practices on sports and recreational fields specifically. So we have a case study. I know Daniella has been on your show. We have his work with composting on his golf courses, but we also have our work, and I see Alec has joined us, our work with Grand Rapids and doing soil testing and stuff like that. So there's a lot of different case studies that people can pull and start to work on natural lawn care today from that website.
Exactly. And what was that website again?
Lawnandland.org.
Lawn and
posting
land.
it on Facebook right now.
Okay, lawnandland.org, and there's a toolkit for how you can do this. I know that I bring this up all the time, and I think you kind of disagree with me, and that's okay. I still feel like there aren't as many organic, natural lawn care companies as there should be, and frankly, that baffles me because I've been talking about this for 20 years. And it was going on before then. And I guess when we bring in Alec McLennan, he's going to talk about some of the reasons why that's important as a lawn care. Oh, okay. She doesn't see Alec in the waiting room. Did you see something there that we should see, Ryan?
I just saw a message, sorry.
Oh, so he's not here. Okay, from what I am understanding is we're getting a busy signal or a voicemail is kicking in. So, I can say really quickly that Alec is with Good Nature Organic Lawn Care. It's based in Cleveland, Ohio, and they're partners with you. And it's nice to know in other states like Cleveland, Ohio, because they're in Cleveland, they're in Akron, they're in Columbus, and in Indianapolis, Indiana. So that's good too.
Yeah, and they're hoping to have a branch in Chicago area as well.
Oh, great.
Fantastic. Well, I'll tell you, Ryan, if people want to get their community, get natural lawn care, go to my website, go to the blog, but also you can go to midwestgrowsgreen.org, correct?
Correct. And going on the natural lawn care services, we have a list of natural lawn care providers in your area. It's if you look on our resources page at midwestgrowsgreen.org, you'll find those Midwest natural lawn care companies. And if you're in the Chicago area, we have a couple of good companies. Greenwise out in your area in Evanston is a great one. Logic Lawn Care.
We're going to have to leave it at that because we're out of time. Thank you, Ryan Anderson. We will talk very soon. It's the Mike Nowak Show with Peggy Malecki.
Great, thank you.
By now, you've heard the great news. If you wanted to try Viagra or Cialis, but were worried about the price,
all right, you're clear.
Are we off Facebook?
Take us off Facebook here.
Okay.
$15 per pill when you get the same results you need for less than $2.
Is there a second section?
All
or-
right, you're on.
No, I'm going to let you go.
Okay.
Because I thought Alec was going to be here and we were going to be able to go into techniques with him, but without him here, there's other things we can talk about. So, but keep in touch. You're always welcome on the show.
All right.
All right, Ryan. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Bye-bye. What would you like to talk about?
Well, we still do have the words going up on Facebook. So,
I'm sorry, what's that?
Oh, how we always have the words that go out.
Yeah, that's easily fixed. I went on Facebook and it's a real quick fix if you want to take the closed captioning off. But we might have some deaf people listening too, or watching.
It catches the mid break. Oh, well, actually, we still are on Facebook.
See,
okay.
Our audio is still up on Facebook, by the way.
Right now, I have the audio muted and a holding screen.
Well, we have people saying the audio is on Facebook.
I'm not disputing that. I'm wondering how the heck is possible that that's.
You know what? I could tell you how to turn that off. Maybe during the break.
The Facebook audio.
Yeah, no, the Facebook live captioning.
No, but the Facebook audio is still up too.
Yeah, but the Facebook audio is still up.
Yes,
okay.
but I would like to know about the captioning as well. Okay, I'm going to ask.
You just Google it, and it's a real simple fix.
I'll fix that, but Randall's not here, so he's going to be working on the phone thing, and I'm going to ask him about this, why we can still hear Facebook when I have it muted. So obviously something's not in there, right? I guess I could turn this down as long as I remember to turn it back up.
What?
All right. You shouldn't be able to hear Facebook now, but I don't want to do it that way.
All right. Yeah. Anyway, let's not talk about Facebook.
So we got Siga.
Yeah. I think we should mention that, and fall vegetables as well. Bring over, Kathleen. Yeah, bring one of those over, or you can bring the.
I should go get all of my Cherokee purples are really weird looking.
I didn't have any this year, so I'm kind of, give me your chart as well.
All right. We have about a minute.
Yeah, it's too cool.
Well, 2 minutes really.
There goes the hummingbird again. I've had a hummingbird back and forth the whole broadcast.
Look at this.
Wow.
This is under our grow lights.
Cool.
We've been doing that all summer.
Those would be your happy
Not necessary because we have so many of those outside too.
Yeah, but you can do them in all winter now too.
That's the idea. We've been practicing. Oh, and Kathleen's grooming here. She wants to get rid of the dead leaves. Oh no. People. Oh no.
Don't look at the plants in the background.
They already know about the dead leaves, Kathleen, because it's going out on closed captioning on Facebook. So nothing.
I don't know. That's getting a bunch of hearts and laughs.
There's no such thing as privacy anymore. Mark Zuckerberg is sitting himself. I don't know if you realize this, but he's sitting himself at the keyboard typing our words.
All
right, stand by.
AM 1590 and FM 95.9, the exclusive home for the Dave Ramsey Show in Chicago.
Keep mowing, 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 mowing. Keep mowing, 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 mowing. Keep mowing, 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 mowing. Now I know y'all be loving this hit right here. Gravely Pro stands, well that's the mower of the year. If the people in the house mow the grass, then you edge. Make a lot of money, then we do it all again.
Really? Maybe that's what I should be doing. There's no money in radio, so maybe I got to get the mower out and need a pickup truck and go from house to house.
Mow your lawn.
Yeah, mow. Hey, welcome back to the Mike Nowak Show with Peggy Malecki. And boy, it's transition time. One of the things we were talking about with Diane Blazek from the National Guard. Well, okay, let me say two things. First of all, following up on Ryan Anderson's conversation from Midwest Grows Green. If you want to change your lawn, this is the time. Okay. Right now. And yeah, especially if we're talking about cool season grasses. If you're listening in the South, that's a different story. In the Midwest, upper Midwest, and, we're talking like St. Louis North. We're getting into the fall. That's when you do the lawn care. Because it's the best time of the year to grow cool season grasses. Now, why is that? Because as we get into, there's a reason they're called cool season grasses. They like cool weather. Right now, it's not cool. In fact, this week it's supposed to be very hot, and our meteorologist Rick DiMaio will tell us about that in the second hour. But as we get into the fall, after the seeds germinate and the grass is growing and it gets cooler, the plants really like it. And that sets it up for the spring. So before they shut down for the winter, they're able to do some growing. So that's why the fall. And I never understood. Well, I do understand, because all the big garden companies are out to make money. This is why they do it in the spring, because people are champing at the bit and they want to get out there and do it in the spring. But if you want to do yourself a favor, start your lawn now, which means researching seed. Boy, we had bad luck today with, we had one expert who was going to be on with Ryan, and she had to bail for emergency reasons. And then Alec, I don't know what happened to him.
Not sure.
Because I was going to ask him all about how to research, but I'm going to have one or both of them on again.
Yeah, we'll have a part 2.
We'll have a part 2 to this. Part 2. And we will talk about how you research the seed for because probably the worst thing you can do is wander into a box store and, oh, here's a seed mix. Here's a part shade seed mix. I think I'll put this in the lawn.
And what defines part shade? Is it 4 hours of shade, full shade? So yeah, how do you make sure that you're spending your money on the right seed?
Yeah. So that's one thing that's going on. The other thing is people are starting to plant their fall cool season vegetables. And we talked about that a couple of weeks ago with the woman from the seed company. Your turn.
Petra.
Right. And what was the name of the seed company?
Fruition Seeds.
Thank you.
Up near Lake George in New York.
Because Peggy lined that up. So I'm like, I can't remember who it was. But Fruition Seeds.
And Skeet's family. Yes.
Skeet's family. Skeet from from Bartlett Tree Experts. From Bartlett Tree Experts, go to bartlett.com.
He's watching us right now.
It happens. I say WCPT sometimes too. I like in WG.
What?
Okay. But from Bartlett, Skeet's family went to visit Petra. And that was so cool. And Petra was like, you heard about this on the radio? So thanks, Skeet. You are the best. You are awesome. So look at this. This is a pea, sweet pea seedling, and this is going out in the yard very soon. So it can grow into the fall, because cool weather are for plants.
Those the dwarf sweet peas?
It's a snap pea.
Cascadia
sugar snap pea. Okay, that's what we have here.
Yum.
Look at this. This is even better. This is not going outside, but this has been growing indoors all summer under.
So what is this for those listening on the radio?
This is baby leaf chard, right? Baby leaf chard, some of which we have taken out. Okay, this has been growing under a Happy Leaf grow light. And for those of you watching, you can see, those of you listening on the radio, this jar, it's a mason jar, is just chock full of char.
Like a foot tall.
Yeah, coming out of the jar. And I could even show you the little thing here. Look at that. There's the root system.
Good root system, yeah.
Yeah, it's really nice. And sometimes
that's hydroponically grown.
It's hydroponically grown under the Happy Leaf LED grow light. We'll be doing that in the winter, but we take some of them sometimes when they germinate and pull them out of there, and I just take them and plant them in the yard, straight out of the jar there. So chard is good. The cool season veggies, spinach. It's still too early for spinach, according to Petra, and other things. Beets. We've got a new crop of beets out there that are going to be ready in the fall.
Kale.
Kale, obviously. Yeah. Well,
let's see.
I'm having Kathleen do all the dirty work here and grab the jars. She is being Vanna White without being on camera. Here is my dinosaur kale growing in a
Nice.
jar, as you can see. And I'm planting that outside probably later today, maybe tomorrow, get it out there and get it going for the cool weather. So that's what people are doing.
I'm jealous.
Why?
Because if I do that,
chipmunks.
Whoop,
yeah,
it'll be gone.
I keep forgetting that you can't grow anything without having the chipmunks.
It's gotta be large when it goes in the ground.
Well, that kale would probably survive, wouldn't
that
it?
would, yeah.
The
probably.
dinosaur kale, which is the
but I'm getting lots of squash. The cucumbers are doing fabulously. Finally, tomatoes are starting to ripen. Finally.
Here's the difference. We've canned already 5 jars of tomatoes.
Ooh, nice.
Ripe tomatoes, which is something new this year to our repertoire, is canning tomatoes. We actually canned some blueberries, made blueberry jam, a couple of jars of blueberry jam. Now, I shouldn't say we, it's Kathleen is really the one doing it. I'm there because there's boiling water, and Mike, you need to lift the jar out of the boiling water. So that's what I do. And but yeah, we've been doing I lost my train of thought, but that's okay. I do that all the time.
We're talking about tomatoes ripening.
Oh, right. We've got all these tomatoes ripening. Not a zucchini to be no, we have a zucchini. All right, finally. Squash. I got the most beautiful, luscious squash plant. It's actually growing up a tree. All right. And just going along the branches of the tree, and I'm getting all male blossoms. Healthiest heck, just the healthiest plant ever, not a single squash.
That's the problem I typically have, and this year something's different.
And I bet our folks watching on Facebook and listening might have some tips for us, but I've done all the checking. I'm not over fertilized with nitrogen. I'm trying to keep the watering up. As I said, the plant looks perfect. It just doesn't have any fruit on it. So, okay. But those things happen. However, my beets are rocking, and the chard is great, and the kale is great, and the tomatoes have been fantastic. So, and we even have cantaloupe. So,
wow.
Go figure.
Well, I think you need to enter your garden, Chicago Excellence in Gardening Awards 60-second video challenge.
You got like 5 seconds to explain that.
Go to chicagogardeningawards.org and figure it out.
Okay. All right. When we come back, second hour, the entire hour's committed to the derecho that hit us last week. I think you're going to find it fascinating. On the network, go green or
go home.
Knows you've got big goals for your business, and we understand hiring is a crucial part of that. You need to hire people who will make a real impact. Indeed can help you find those important hires faster while paying only for what you need without any long-term contracts. Thanks to our super flexible.
Okay, I'm probably just going to turn my mic off because I'm afraid if I say anything, it's going to go out on Facebook. Do we have any idea?
No, I'm still waiting for Randall to show up. That is the first thing on my list, is to figure out why it's still doing that. Actually, the phone is the first thing on my list, because now I'm trying to figure out a different way to get Rick on.
Yeah, and I'm watching my words come up on the closed captioning.
Okay, yeah, and it's muted. And that doesn't make any sense to me. So something's
all right, I'm going to look that up, and I'm going to tell you how to do it right away.
Yeah, I'm going to mute my.
And if you
I'm
got
muting.
extra money, a cash out refinance could give you that financial boost you're looking for. Call today at 8338-ROCKET or go to rocketmortgage.com to learn more.
Call for cost information and conditions. Equal housing lender. Licensed in all 50 states. NMLS number 3030.
WCGO. With talkers that listen and radio that inspires.
This is Smart Talk at W240EH Evanston, Chicago. Right there on 95.9 FM.
I could do this.
This month, Napa's got all
It's not going to happen.
Well, he might be able to do audio.
I'm here.
Yeah, no, Liz, you're there, and we're happy for that.
Oh no, this is Nancy. Sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry, Nancy.
No, that's okay.
Don't let it go to your head.
Yeah.
These oil deals are for everyone. Quality parts, healthy people.
Yeah. At this
That's
point, I'm
Napa
thinking
know-how.
if he doesn't want to be on Zoom, we could use his audio on Zoom.
I know, but he would have to have Zoom on his phone.
phone,
I mean,
right.
can he just connect? Or would he need to have the app running on his phone?
No, he should be able to just log
Okay, somebody's
in.
going to have to call him
Okay.
and tell him that, how to make
Kayla.
it.
Do you want me? You want Kayla? Okay. Let me know
Well,
if you want
if
me to
she
do
understands how it works, right? Does she, Peggy?
it. Okay.
Well, then it's got to be.
Wanna
I'm
call
gonna
him,
call.
Nancy?
I'm gonna call
Once
him.
we're in the segment, Nancy, you should call Rick and explain it to him.
I will do that.
Welcome to the second hour of the Mike Nowak Show with Peggy Malecki. This hour is brought to you by Bartlett Tree Experts. Every tree needs a champion. Go to bartlett.com. Here they are again, Peggy Malecki and Mike Nowak.
All I need is good food to eat and make me healthy, wealthy, wide awake. Lettuce, tomatoes, root and bacon. What about those sweet potatoes? All I need is good food to eat. All I need is good food to eat. All I need is good tools to
Welcome back to the Mike Nowak Show with Peggy Malecki. The technical gods are still fighting us, and we're fighting back. We're punching back. Okay, we're punching above our weight at the moment. But the good news is we have on the phone with us Lyz Lenz, journalist, author, staff columnist for the Cedar Rapids Gazette. Her writing has appeared in a lot of places like the Huffington Post, the Washington Post, the Columbia Journalism Review, the New York Times. Why didn't you list the Times in this Post first, Peggy? That's what I
copied and pasted.
Oh, okay. Her book, Godland, was published in 2019, and her second book, Belabored, was just published this month. So congratulations, Liz, on the book.
Thank you. It's been a busy time.
I bet. Well, and that's the other thing. It's got to be a little frustrating. You have a book come out, and then you have a storm with 100-mile-an-hour winds come rushing through Iowa and upend the apple cart. We were going to start with Rick DiMaio, one of our meteorologists, but we're figuring out how to get him on the air with us here. But we're going to start with you because you were on the ground there in Iowa. As folks know, we were hit by a derecho, which is a storm that goes across hundreds of miles with straight line winds. It sometimes produces tornadoes, but the main feature is the front that goes across and just knocks down everything in its way, unlike a tornado, which sort of skips around. Although it did produce tornadoes in Chicago. And in fact, later in this hour, we're going to be talking to Daniella Pereira from Openlands and Alderman Scott Waguespack from Chicago City Council about the 7,300 trees that were lost in Chicago, that were downed here, whether that had to happen and whether that can be mitigated in the future. So I'm looking at coverage of this the other day, and I mentioned the Washington Post, and I see an opinion piece that you had written in the Washington Post, and the headline was "An Island Hurricane Tore Through Iowa. You probably didn't hear about it." And I posted that on the show Facebook page, and I wrote, Lyz Lenz is angry, and she has every right to be. And tell us about the origin of that piece.
Well, yes, what happened was basically we had a Category 2 hurricane with no warning. So, I think the big thing is with hurricanes, like you can prepare. And who would have thought that Iowa should prepare for something like that? And it just completely devastated my town. It hit on August 10th, and I work in the news. All I knew was that we were going to get a thunderstorm, and that was it. And that warning about that came not too long before it hit, and then the sirens go off, and I'm working from home with my kids in a pandemic, right? Because we're all still home, and I'm thinking it's just going to be fine. And I grew up in tornado country, Texas, so it's hard to phase me with a storm. And my kids go to the basement and our cat is outside. So they're like, please go save Waffles. And so, I go up to see if I can see Waffles in the front, and I see a tree snap in half and fall on a car. And then I start hearing the snap, thump. And it's terrifying. And that's when, I was like, well, and then I couldn't see because in front of my window, I thought a whole tree had fallen, but turns out just a quarter of the tree basically fell. I couldn't see out my window anymore. And I just ran downstairs and, kind of held my kids and reassured them. And, and then coming out, it's hard to describe the devastation. Even people in neighboring towns who've come here to help are like, we had no idea it was this bad. It's just every tree, every home was damaged in some way, and coming outside and seeing, everything just be destroyed. And, and I work in the news. I had deadlines and stuff I had to file. I had no internet, no power, and 2 kids, and I still had to make it work. So I threw them in the car, and we drove out of town. We had to drive an hour north to Cedar Falls to even find a place with internet. And, driving out of town, I saw billboards snapped in half. The whole buildings collapsed. And, I'm crying because this is my home and the place I love. And I think probably about Tuesday, the very next day, I'm just looking in the news. I'm like, why isn't anybody talking about this? We were completely devastated. Seniors and now have gone without power for, went without power for 5 days. People were trapped in their homes. People were homeless and living on the street waiting for the Red Cross to come, and nobody came. And it's just hard to see this disaster happen and have nobody shout about it. And so I guess I'm a professional shouter. So a friend of mine who works at the Post had texted me, and she said, you need to write about this. And so then I did. And and so I hear a lot of people being like, oh, well, it got national coverage because I read that thing in the Post. I was like, I wrote that thing. So it doesn't count as national coverage. And then I ended up freelancing for the Post, which I'm so grateful for, but helping them report out on the ground because, the pandemic is pretty unchecked here in Iowa, so nobody wants to send in reporters, which I understand, but, there's a lot of great local media we could partner with. And the sad part is, it's not that we want to have our glamour shots on CNN. We want help. Right. And when there's national attention.
Right. That's been sort of your focus is how can we get it not only national attention, but state attention. You talk about, and I've read some of your pieces where you confront some of the administrators and say, you said to one of them, I thought, he's saying, well, what would you have us do? And you said, I thought that was your job. And I understand their frustration because they couldn't get anywhere. A lot of the first responders couldn't get out of their driveways. And I see, yes, Rick DiMaio, you're going to mention that Rick.
We have Rick and his volume's on.
Okay, Rick. So one of the things that Lyz Lenz, who's in Lynn County in Iowa said that when she came to work, they were predicting a thunderstorm. What happened along the way after, that to change that in such a short time?
Well, to be honest with you, they weren't just predicting a thunderstorm, and no disrespect to Lyz, but this was very well predicted early in the morning, went from a slight risk to an enhanced to a moderate. Then a severe thunderstorm watch went out, which was labeled as a particularly dangerous situation. So from a meteorological standpoint, this was predicted quite well from the standpoint of most derechos happen on an order of about 0 to about 6 hours. This is not the type of forecast that you're going to get on a Monday for a Tuesday or even a Monday night for a Tuesday, but all indications were there pretty much early in the day on Monday that this was going to be not only a derecho that we haven't seen in probably 30 or 40 years, but the possibility of 90 to 100 mile an hour winds was very well predicted. Now, that doesn't mean that Lyz is not a smart person. It just means that she may have not gotten all of the details down of what the forecast was from not only the Storm Prediction Center, but also the local National Weather Service office. And that happens a lot.
Yeah.
People get caught up in their routine of what's happening during the day. And the next thing they know, they go, holy smoke, I didn't realize this was going to be that bad, only because they didn't have time to drill down into the details of what was going to be happening with this massive storm system.
Go ahead, Lyz.
Well, with all due respect, though, nobody knows what a derecho is. It's a completely meaningless concept to most people. So, if you look up in the news and they say, oh, strong winds or a derecho coming, that's not fully communicating, the severity of the situation, and yes, I had seen that strong winds were going to come, but that doesn't communicate to people what it actually means, and I still think that's the problem with getting national news coverage too, is that, you say derecho, people don't understand it unless they've gone through it, and so they think, oh, just strong winds blew the crops over, when it was really just a complete and utter devastation of my town.
Yeah, and one thing, Rick, that she said, and we got about a minute here before we break. One thing that Lyz said early on, it was like a Category 2 hurricane swept through Iowa. That sort of lays it out there, doesn't it, if you say it that way?
Yeah, and again, I don't want to get into the minutia of a derecho. The Storm Prediction Center doesn't come out and say a derecho is happening. They say that a severe thunderstorm watch is issued, which was issued at 6 o'clock in the morning, and the possibility for winds in excess of 75 miles per hour with some gusts as high as 100 was predicted as early as 6 a.m. So again, I don't think this is where we want this conversation to go.
No.
But again, the word derecho just describes the type of long-lived severe thunderstorm that this was. And after the break, we could talk about the damage that obviously occurred due to the crops, which is what we're here to talk about.
Well, not just the crops. What Lyz wants to talk about is the damage to her town and what the people had to endure for days and into a week.
Power still being out.
All right, we need to break. It's the Mike Nowak Show with Peggy Malecki. We'll be right back.
That's not just a tree in your yard. It's an investment.
So we are still live on Facebook.
You are still
All right,
live
so
on
we
Facebook.
can actually continue to have a little bit of a conversation here during this break on Facebook. It's not going out over the AM and FM signal, but it is on Facebook. So, so what we'll come back with is obviously there was a lot of crop damage, which is important because that's one of the main industries in Iowa, the #1 corn producing state in the nation. But as we started to mention, Lyz, the people's lives were really impacted by this, weren't they?
In heat.
Yeah, in the heat, yes. I've talked to a woman who was in her second floor apartment again, watching her 4-month-old grandson, and had the walls and ceilings blown off around her. And then and then the paramedics came and they were told, sit tight, the Red Cross will be here. And she sat out, on the curb, couch surfing with friends who also don't have, power or air conditioning or anything, waiting for the Red Cross, who never came. I spoke to seniors who were living in senior communities where they were without power for, 5 to 6 days. Nobody's showing up with generators. They're the younger ones are cooking food and walking up and down the stairs to take it to the wheelchair-bound people. And this is also happening in the middle of an unchecked pandemic. And so I just, while I think the total is 4 people died in the storm, I just think that the humanitarian cost of this is going to be, we haven't even begun to see the true devastation yet. And
we felt for a long
time.
And one thing Rick, I think we might be able to talk about also when we come back is why it seemed to me that Iowa got hit hardest. And then as the storm moved on, it was still potent, obviously, spawning tornadoes in Chicago and that sort of thing. But it seemed like the straight line 100-mile-an-hour winds were mainly in Iowa phenomenon, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, and we've had you easily can go through the course of a summer season with 5 or 6 derechos. They're not uncommon. They happen pretty much from North Dakota all the way down into the Ohio Valley, and from Minnesota all the way down into Oklahoma. The reason why this was so devastating is it pretty much damaged millions of acres of corn at the time when it was at its most mature, as well as bins. So there's no place to put the corn, and the corn that's literally on the ground right now is bird food. So this is just basically a high-end weather event that was incredibly, highly negatively impactful to the agricultural community and the human community as well.
Okay, we have got about 40 seconds, so everybody stand by, and it's going to be short, but I appreciate you all helping us out and explain what the heck is going on. So stand by.
Don't know why there's no sun up in the sky, stormy weather, since my man and I ain't together.
Or since the derecho came to town. That's actually Lena Horne. I think that was the last time she sang that.
That's 2014 date you had on there.
2014, yeah. It's very cool. I happen to track that down. Welcome back to the Mike Nowak Show with Peggy Malecki. We're talking to meteorologist Rick DiMaio and also to journalist from the Cedar Rapids Gazette, Lyz Lenz, who was in the middle.
Lyz Lenz.
I'm sorry, Lyz Lenz. Actually, I keep having in my head, Liz, if I slip up and call you Lyz Lemon, please just smack me.
You wouldn't be the first person.
Okay, good. Well, I called you Lynn now. It's Lyz Lenz, and it's spelled L-Y-Z, L-Y-Z, which made it hard for me to track you down.
Yeah.
But anyway, Liz, we were talking to Rick during the break. Very briefly, Rick, explain why it was so much more powerful. The winds were so much more powerful in Iowa than other places along the route of the derecho.
All right, so I think that's a different question of why it was so impactful in Iowa. If you would have taken this derecho of 100-mile-an-hour winds and blow it across Iowa in March, no damage. If you take this derecho and blow it across Iowa in late September, no damage. But you blow it across Iowa between the first and second week of August, and you have massive, massive devastation to corn. What's interesting to note is soybeans were not as impacted due to the fact that they're very short and they were able to bend, and even 100-mile-an-hour winds could damage them but not destroy them. Corn at this point in the year is not only about 6 feet tall, but it's also very, very hard at the base. And below that fourth node or nodule, if you want to call it that, of where the leaves come out, if you bend that over, it's not going to come back. So even though there were about 30 million to about 40 million acres of damaged corn crops, about 10 million from what we know right now are completely destroyed, meaning that they were probably broken off. But the original question, Mike, which is why it was so bad in Iowa.
And wait, and let me just stop you there for one more reason, Rick, is the other thing that you failed to mention is that the trees were leafed out. They're in full leaf, and in the winter they wouldn't have been,
right.
and a lot of those trees probably would not have fallen. I think that's another thing.
Well, is that true though? Because I saw entire trees uprooted and snapped in half. I think that would have happened in the fall or the spring or the winter.
Well, I'm going to find that out in the next segment, but I suspect that there would have been less damage.
There's more resistance with the leaves.
Yeah.
Typically, Liz, most of your tree damage is going to occur either during the month of August, early September, or after extremely heavy rain. And what's interesting to note, and you probably see this more than anything, Liz, is most of central Iowa westward is in extreme drought. We now have 10 counties that are literally on the number 4 out of 5 scale of drought intensity, and that's not helping either. So even some of these crops that are still kind of in the ground and are able to get their head up, farmers can't do anything with them because they're not going to go out there and irrigate. They're hoping for some rain. And unfortunately, we haven't gotten the rain, and we're not going to get any more rain. So this is about as bad as it gets. You have damaged crops in the middle of a drought. You have no place to put whatever you can take out of the ground because the silos are damaged. And what Liz pointed out, very, very importantly, we're in the middle of a pandemic.
All right. So
and you've got communities that have been decimated.
Yes.
And communities that have been decimated because, I mean, God bless, a lot of those crops are federally insured. You know, the 90-year-old couple that had to put a "please help us" sign in their, in their home to get somebody to give them food. That's a far different story than a corn crop.
And that's the story you're telling, Liz, and that I've been reading in your pieces, which is people getting out there and waiting for somebody to come, and the Red Cross couldn't get through and the other agencies couldn't get through. And so how have they been surviving?
Well, I mean, I do just want to say we still put out a paper even when the Red Cross couldn't figure out how to set up a shelter. And I mean that very pointedly, because I feel like we have been failed by the agencies and the people who were supposed to help us. But yes, I mean, like it has been very difficult. People couldn't leave their driveways. People couldn't leave their homes. And, even people who didn't have a lot of tree damage. I had a woman call me at the newspaper. She couldn't get out of her garage. She's 65 years old. She's diabetic, but there were some downed power lines over her garage, which meant she couldn't get her car out, which meant she couldn't get anywhere, which meant and people had brought her food, but she's diabetic. So all the food that she brought, she couldn't eat. And so she called me 4 days in and was like, tell me where I can get a hot meal, because she hadn't eaten properly in 4 days. And so, I mean, that's what we're still dealing with. And I will say it's amazing how people have come together and helped each other, but also we're doing it in the middle of an unchecked pandemic. Yeah. And also, when relief efforts are crowdsourced, which is wonderful, people still get missed. People in mobile home parks or people for whom English is not their first language. There was huge devastation to Cedar Rapids' immigrant community, and nobody went out there to help them, until news reporters started sounding the alarm.
And
so,
from what I read, also the shelters were damaged, so you couldn't take people to shelters, and then they probably wouldn't have been able to be staffed anyway. And there's a pandemic.
And no power.
And no power and a pandemic. I mean, it just sounds like the worst case scenario all around.
Yeah, I mean, there should have been a plan because we are 6 months into this pandemic, and I do know that emergency plans are updated pretty regularly, and it is Iowa, and we do get, some pretty severe weather. So there should have been some sort of better plan than what's been put in place. And I hope that going forward, we can push our nonprofit agencies and our emergency response agencies and everyone to just, to have a better way of responding here. But yeah, I mean, our mayor famously has been complaining about how he was stuck in his home for a couple days. Meanwhile, a local KCRG news reporter climbed through tree branches and had a coworker pick her up so she could still report the news. So, I think
we're going to have to leave it there.
A lot of excuses.
I want people to go to check out Cedar Rapids Gazette. Go to the gazette.com. Rick DiMaio, we're going to talk to you in just a few minutes in your regular slot. Lyz, thank you so much. It's the Mike Nowak Show with Peggy Malecki. More about the derecho when we come back.
Guys, by now, you've heard the great news. If you wanted to try Viagra...
Okay, I hope we're clear, even if we're not. Lyz, thank you. So, Lyz, I would like to keep in touch with you, and maybe in a couple or a few weeks, we can go into even more detail about this and the response, because I think it's really important. You're getting people just shrugging their shoulders and saying, what were we supposed to do? And I'm like, as you said, people are supposed to know this. So
and if you can send us, I know you had some things in your column, but if you can send us, if there's any links, how people can help.
I've got that.
Yes.
I've got that. I've already put it in the the blog. You've got there's one of the pieces there you wrote about all the different organizations that are helping, and if you go to my blog, it says the Gazette has a raft of organizations that you can contact, and it's from the Gazette and all the organizations that are helping out.
Yes, thank you all so much, and I'm sure this will still be recovering weeks out from now, so I really appreciate it.
Okay. Rick, we will talk to you at the...
I mean, if you want to just put yourself on mute so you don't have to dial back in.
Yeah, I'll just stay here. All right.
Okay. I'll tell you what, if you want to, if you want to pop in during the next segment, I was trying to give you a break, but you can do that too. So, all right, Lyz,
I'll wait until 10 of.
Okay.
Okay.
Lyz, we'll let you go.
All right. Have a great day.
You too.
Nice job, Lyz.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Daniella and Scott are on together, right?
No.
No.
They're on the same segment, but they're
different times, same segment.
Scott was going to call.
Scott, they're both in the waiting room. It's just I'm wondering, Daniella and then Scott's going to be on after her. Is that right?
No, they're both on together.
Oh, they are on together. Okay.
All right, Kayla's going to post the the Gazette.
Good, that'd be great.
Yeah, the problem I was having was I was running out of. You can access it like 5 times and then you get locked out.
Okay, Scott and Daniella, you can go ahead and turn on your video and unmute your microphones.
Good morning.
Hi.
Hi.
How are you?
Just trying to pack up. We're going to the UP after this. So.
Oh, well.
Okay, we are live on Facebook right now. So
just so you know, why don't you give us the address and then your personal cell number? And while you're at it, how about your social security number?
Hey, Scott, how are you?
Good. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah, you look great. Thank you for doing this, Scott. I really appreciate it.
You bet. I'm glad you guys were able to have us on.
We're going to do as quick an introduction to this as we can. We have about 12 minutes to whip through this, but I think that should be plenty of time.
Okay.
Using zero gravity and scuba therapy to give confidence, independence, self-esteem, and yes, freedom to children, veterans, and others with disabilities. At DiveHeart, we believe in the power of partnership because together we can do great things. Let DiveHeart help you imagine the possibilities in your life. Go to diveheart.org to learn more.
Hey, it's JT and Leanne. Join us for the Heart and Home Radio Show, brought to you by Exit Realty.
Sundays at 11 on Smart Talk, WCGO, AM and FM.
And welcome back to the Mike Nowak Show with Peggy Malecki. I have no idea why I actually chose that music.
I was kind of wondering myself, but
Friday it made a lot of sense. Today it makes no sense at all. But that's the Danish National Symphony Orchestra in a live version of The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. I know
The Good,
why.
the Bad, the Ugly of tree care. I don't know.
That was it. The Good, the Bad, the Ugly of all of this, of a storm of downed trees, and that's what I was thinking of.
We lost Scott.
Let's hope we get him back. But we have to start. That was the guy who just disappeared is Scott Waguespack, who is the Alder person, Alder guy, Alder critter,
Alder dude
from the nobody knows what to call him anymore. And I don't mean him personally. I mean the alders. So that's what Advocates for Urban Agriculture uses the term alder. So he's from the 32nd Ward, and he will be back with us, I hope. But fortunately, we have Daniella Pereira on board as well. She's the Vice President for Community Conservation at Openlands, and you can go to openlands.org to find more information. We love Openlands. They do all kinds of great stuff for natural areas in this region, not just Illinois, not just Chicago, but the entire region of Wisconsin and Illinois and Indiana and Michigan. So Daniella, it's great to have you back on the show.
Thank you for having me here. It's nice to be back.
We were talking.
Can you move real close to your mic?
Yeah, lean into the microphone just a little bit. There we go.
Okay, how's that?
That's better.
Okay.
And we were talking with meteorologist Rick DiMaio and Lyz Lenz from Iowa, Cedar Rapids, about the trees they lost there. And there was a conversation about whether more or fewer trees would have been lost in the winter or early spring because the trees hadn't leafed out. We lost 7,300 trees here in Chicago. Do you believe that to be the case, Daniella?
I think it's a hard thing to figure out because, I mean, you could have ice storms that will, freeze ice to a tree with no leaves and tons of stuff will come down too.
Yeah, that's true.
So I think
I guess I'm talking about the straight line winds is in particular. But you're an arborist as well, have been for 20 years, certified arborist. So that's part of your training on this. And you wrote an opinion piece, speaking of opinion pieces, Lyz Lenz, and now you wrote a piece in the Trib about this and why we need an urban forestry advisory board, and it had to do with the storm. Can you connect the two for us, please?
Yeah, well, I've been hoping for an urban forestry advisory board for a while now. And I actually think if we had a Department of Environment that they might be able to, address a lot of the issues. But since I started Openlands almost 8 years ago, I get weekly calls, I swear, weekly calls about people upset that their trees are coming down. Why aren't they not inoculating my trees anymore?
And we should make clear, this is in Chicago.
This is in Chicago. And it's not just Bureau of Forestry, it's Park District. We don't have any plans around trees on CPS property. There's a lot of people who touch trees all over. And I think we were just at a really good point that when all these trees did blow down with the derecho, that I think it became really obvious. Because I think usually people don't think about trees until the tree is about to come down or comes down, that they realize how important it is. And so if you don't have a plan for how to maintain trees, this is what's going to result. And so hopefully, Scott and the other alders that are pushing this forward will be able to make some progress on having something out there for all the constituents in Chicago to feel good about.
Well, let's go to Scott Waguespack here and some of the points that you've raised, Daniella. And some of it is about tree care. And you sent me a very interesting letter to the editor piece from a guy who was not happy with you because he says you were too critical of the arborists, city arborists. But part of what Danielle is talking about here is that we've been losing perfectly healthy trees because somebody on a block says, I don't like the way that looks. They have clout with the alder person. They go to the alder person and say, get rid of it. And then the alder does. That's probably a reason right there to have an urban forestry advisory board. Don't you think?
Yeah, and I think that's where I first met Daniella when we were going over some of these processes that that I was beginning to learn about with what they call discretionary trees, where an alderman could say, "Yeah, just go cut that one down." And I fought for years, unfortunately, with residents saying, that's a live tree. We're going to do everything we can to save it and try to prove that it's really a serious problem before we would even touch it. But Mike, Daniella's talked to me about this for many years, that we need this holistic approach to every aspect in every department and every agency. We just don't have it. And, we had the emerald ash borer starting in 2002 that started this destructive process. And we've never been able to get everyone together and say, what's happening over there at the park district around the school grounds? And people call us for all of those issues. Yeah, I've got my own chainsaw, and saws, but I hate going out there and doing things unless we really have an arborist looking at it. And so I think the whole goal here is to really create something that will affect us now and several generations into the future. And the advisory board, I think, is the only way to do that. And I give great credit to Openlands and others who've been working on this issue for many years. And it wasn't until now with this new mayor that I've been able to introduce this.
Let's go back to something else Daniella said, and that's the Department of the Environment. That's something that Mayor Lori Lightfoot talked about during her campaign. We're more than a year in. We haven't seen a revival of the Department of the Environment. Can you tell us anything about that?
Well, I think it has a lot to do just with the budgets. And we've really pushed for it. She's brought in Angela Tovar to be the sustainability officer. But I think we're trying to figure out a way to recreate that, because I think under Daley, when they created it, you had some folks working there that were doing a great job trying to go up this trajectory, talking about the tree canopy and a lot of other climate change issues. But, when it was killed off when Ron first started, we haven't been able to get that traction. But I think this mayor's committed to it. In the meantime, I think this tree advisory board will be able to go forward, and we can help kind of push that forward, the idea of the DOE, but also in its absence, really do a lot with the advisory board.
So Daniella, how could trees be prevented from taking as much damage as they did during the storms in Chicago with a little bit of maintenance?
Yeah, well, to be able to do that maintenance, I actually think we'll probably need more crews out there to do it. Right now they're on a plan of just responding to 311 calls, and that really put the emphasis on a homeowner knowing when a tree needs care versus having an arborist come out and do that. So if you had a grid-based pruning system, you would actually be able to inspect all the trees and do preventative health care. So if you see trees are hollow, or if you see that limbs are dead, you'd be able to take that off instead of waiting for the wind to take that down and, ultimately damaging people or property. And it's not just, street trees. Thinking about, I live right across the street from a CPS school, and they have big trees right there, and a bunch of them came down. Bureau of Forestry was, great and responded to that, but really that's not their jurisdiction. So how are we going to manage the entire canopy of trees? Because, they have all these great benefits, and if we're actually not doing anything to sustain them, these trees that have been in the ground for 50, 70, 100 years, we'll not see again in our lifetime.
And you mentioned Chicago's actually lost more than 14,000 trees in the last year.
so far. And last year, there was 19,000 trees removed.
And we've got less canopy in Chicago than many cities.
We have less than Los Angeles, and Los Angeles is experiencing drought. Los Angeles typically doesn't have a ton of canopy, traditionally, but, a lot of cities, even including Denver, plant street trees and trees because of all those benefits you actually receive from it, even though it might not be historically from or in those areas.
And we're going backward, unfortunately. We're going in the wrong direction. So the ordinance was supposed to have come up earlier. We talked about it on the show, but it went to the Rules Committee in City Council, which is where ordinances go. Yeah, no, where ordinances go to die. So what's going on right now, Scott Waguespack?
Yeah, one of my colleagues pulled something there where they sent it to the Rules Committee, and I was very upset about that. I know Daniella was, but we've already talked to Alderman Michelle Harris, who runs the Rules Committee. She's going to send it back to the Finance Committee, where I'm the Finance Committee chair now. And we're definitely going to have the hearings. And I think it'll probably take place sometime in September. So we're definitely going to move forward with it. And I'm happy that she's working with me on this.
And we all know, and we just have a few seconds here, so I'll wrap up. We all know that there's a pandemic. We all know that there's unrest in the streets. We all know that we've got school crisis. We've got all of these different crises, but trees are important because they make the quality of life so much better. Daniella Pereira, thank you so much. Go to openlands.org. Scott Waguespack, Alder from City of Chicago, thank you for your continued work. Let's talk about this some more in the future, okay?
Thanks for having us, Mike.
Yeah. All right, Rick DiMaio, weather. We'll finish about hurricanes and drought. We'll be back.
Indeed knows you've got big goals for your business, and we understand hiring is a crucial part of that.
Here. Thank you so much. I told you it would be short, but I think we got it across pretty well.
Those important hires faster.
So, Scott, there may be some other things that I want to talk to you about on the show sometime. It's been a really long time. I know you've been incredibly busy. Your life changed a year ago too. So
everybody.
Yeah, but I hope we can do that. And Daniella, you're always welcome here.
Thank you.
So you guys drive carefully, okay?
Thanks.
Okay. Be safe up there. Scott, you be safe too, okay?
Thank you, guys.
All right, take
care.
Have
fun, Danielle. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
All right, that leaves Mr. DiMaio.
We are back with Rick. And still on Facebook.
Okey poke.
Yeah.
I just assume we're always on.
Yeah.
That Mark Zuckerberg has messed with the controls so that we can never shut off our audio on Facebook because he wants to catch me saying something stupid. But all he has to do is listen to the show, and it's easy. And just record pretty much any segment.
Do you want me to read this coming in?
Yeah, let's do that real quick.
Okay.
And then we get to Rick. And Rick?
Yeah.
Okay. You want to start with hurricanes, or I think we should start with California. I really think that things are pretty desperate out there.
Okay, we could do that.
Because
the photos of the redwoods burning was like, oh
yeah, that's just terrifying. We don't even know how able to survive it, although they're supposed to be able to withstand some amount of burning.
There was some scary articles I read about it. It's just gut-wrenching to even see those photos or read about it.
And that was a real good point, Rick, about Western Iowa being in the middle of a drought too. I mean, these are things that people lose track of.
Right.
Unless you live there,
Right.
With food scraps, they swap it out on a regular schedule, and voila, you're returning organic matter back to the soil instead of creating harmful methane in a landfill. Go to collectiveresource.us. They make composting easy.
Mosquitoes transmit deadly diseases like Zika and West Nile virus, but Summit Mosquito Dunks kill mosquitoes before they're old enough to bite. Just float an organic mosquito dunk in ponds, bird baths, and any standing water to kill mosquito larvae for 30 days or longer. Don't worry, mosquito dunks won't harm people, pets, fish, or wildlife. Mosquito Dunks, available at fine garden centers, hardware stores, and online. Visit summitresponsibleSolutions.com.
All right, 1 minute.
Mike Nowak from the Smart Talk Radio Network. One of the best ways to help out during the COVID-19 crisis is to donate blood. It doesn't cost you anything but your time. And the good it will do is immeasurable. Right now, fewer people than ever are able to donate, which makes the need for blood greater than ever. Can you spare an hour? Contact the American Red Cross today to schedule an appointment. Go to redcross.org.
Chicagoans are always looking for innovative ways to lead healthier lives. This is Peggy, and I publish Natural Awakenings, Chicago's greenest and healthiest local magazine. And if you want to reach our area's fast-growing wellness and sustainability market, you need to get your business in front of our 80,000 targeted monthly readers, in print and online. Call me today at 847-858-3697 and check us out at nachicago.com. Natural Awakenings. Feel good, live simply, laugh more.
This is Steve Levin, the Dice Man from Roll the Dice, Sunday nights at 8 o'clock on Smart Talk, WCGO, AM 1590 and 95.9 FM.
We live at the bottom of an ocean of air, an ocean of air, an ocean of air. We live at the bottom of an ocean of air that's called the atmosphere. The atmosphere is made of dust and water vapor and different kinds of gases.
Wow. I bet Rick already knew that. Welcome back to the Mike Nowak Show with Peggy Malecki. Rick DiMaio has been very gracious today with his time to talk, because it's crazy weather time in the United States and the world. Rick, give us 30 seconds and we'll be right with you. Go ahead, Peggy.
Hey, what happens when your lilac sale gets postponed by a pandemic? What happens? You carefully nurture your plants and reschedule for an online sale in September. The Lombard Garden Club has a large selection of dwarf, semi-dwarf, and full-size bushes in white, pink, magenta, bluish purple, and the ever-popular common purple. Common purple. Hey, here's a bonus too. Due to the delay, the plants are bigger than usual and they're ready for immediate fall planting. So you can purchase your lilacs online and pick them up at Lilacia Park in Lombard from September 10th through 12th. Go to lombardgardenclub.org or click the lilac photo at mikenovak.net.
All right, let's get to meteorologist Rick DiMaio. I'm going to throw a curveball at you, and I apologize for it.
That's fine.
Because just a quick recap of the derecho, not so much in Iowa, which we've gone through, but Chicago. When it, it's interesting. On my block, plenty of wind, some down branches, but really not a lot of, even my backyard in my garden was spared. You go a few blocks away to Logan Square, some of those trees were just twisted and stripped of their branches. And it made me wonder, is it possible we could have, is that straight line wind damage, or would that have to have been tornadic damage?
Well, it was straight line wind damage, but on the scale of 1 to 10, it was probably a 5. Straight line wind damage on a scale of 1 to 10 in Iowa were an 11. Okay. Now, when you get into areas of Chicago where you had the tornadoes, I was over in the Rogers Park area, 2 days after it occurred, and literally on the corner of Toohey and Sheridan, there were no trees down. You walked 2 blocks north to Jarvis, and you literally had 20 trees down, and that was tornadic winds. So we were actually lucky here from a standpoint of the amount of straight line wind damage, and the amount of power lines that came down in the Chicagoland area were much, much less than they were in other parts of the Midwest. And even though the National Weather Service declared that 7 tornadoes touched down, they were all F0 and F1. But the one in Rogers Park, because it's such a densely populated area with literally trees that are right up on top of one another, the amount of damage and the impact is much, much greater. So again, straight line winds, when you're talking 50, 60 miles an hour, that's a lot of wind. But because you see damage of 110 miles an hour in another neighborhood, you immediately go, well, it wasn't that bad in my area. It was only 50. But still 50 mile an hour winds, that's a lot of wind. We just always, as human beings, the first thing we do when we observe things, we compare it to either how bad it is or how good it is. And that is the immediate perspective that most humans have unless you're a scientist in that particular field.
Yeah, really, it was interesting. And I was so surprised when I didn't see much damage here. And I did the comparison thing that you're talking about when I went to the Boulevard in Logan Square. And I haven't even been up to Rogers Park, but I got those wonderful photos from my blog from a friend who lives up that way and just went walking around taking photos.
Terrible.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And
Go ahead.
I was going to say it was probably a much longer sustained wind up there in Rogers Park that, what you're seeing in the photos was causing, except in Logan Square, it was fast.
Yeah, I think what happened also, Peg, is that you'll get this preceding wind gust of 50 to 60. So the trees will swing back and forth, and then a tornado will come through and basically take care of whatever tree didn't come out of the ground. The tornado will basically rip that part out of the ground as well.
Wow. All right, let's go to California because they are encountering and dealing with some incredible wildfires. What's going on there, Rick?
So what's really amazing about California is the first thing people will equate to why their wildfires are so bad is that it's been really dry. It really hasn't been that dry in Southern California. Matter of fact, there's not even a drought declared in Southern California. Most of the fires, though, are burning in Central California northward. We're literally on a scale of 0 to 5. They're only about a D2, which is a level 2 drought. In other words, the drought is twice as bad in Iowa than it is in California. However, if you look at the temperatures, the amount of heat or the degree of heat that California has had in the months of June, July, and now August are literally off the charts. Phoenix just had their hottest July on record. Southern California had their second hottest July on record. I'm looking at the temperatures so far for San Francisco and Stockton, which is basically the middle of the state. They're 6.5 degrees above normal. So even though it hasn't been that dry, whatever soil and whatever sort of plants and trees and shrubs are growing are now much, much drier due to the fact that it's been so darn dry. So again, now we're heading into the driest part of the year, which is literally the second half of August and into September. Mike and Peg, we're not even near the midpoint of the fire season, and we have this going on. And you think about it, we're not even at the midpoint of the hurricane season, and we're ready up to letter M. And this is what you see with climate change is a shift in the seasons. We have literally gone into the second half of summer a month ahead of schedule.
Wow. And that's just such a great point. And you told me the other day, because I said, was the derecho caused by climate change? And you said no, but the drought, the fires and the hurricanes are. So you just have to differentiate, right?
Right. Now, from a meteorological standpoint, the derecho was not a result of climate change. However, that doesn't mean that climate change doesn't have an impact on derechos. Let me explain. As the atmosphere warms, the jet stream may get pushed a little bit further north. So instead of derechos occurring more so from Nebraska and Iowa, this may be more of a concern 20 and 30 years from now in literally North Dakota, Minnesota, and in northern sections of Wisconsin. So the same systems may develop, they just may occur early in the year or further north.
All right, do we have, we really need to get to the forecast, but do we need to worry about the hurricanes, the double barrel hurricanes in the Gulf of Mexico?
Marco will become a category 1 and just basically produce 65 to 75 mile per hour winds in southwest Louisiana. Laura most likely will produce much more in the way of heavy rain over Hispaniola, Puerto Rico, and Haiti. And those countries can't take 10 inches of rain. Massive flooding down there, but by the time Laura gets into the northern Gulf, it will most likely ramp up to a category 2. The only problem is it looks like it's going to move in the same area that Marco was.
All right, give us that forecast.
Rain. All right, hot and humid today, hot and humid tomorrow, temperatures in the 90s through Thursday, and then we cool off again, but only 0.7 of an inch of rain so far for the month here in Chicago in August. It's been dry and getting drier.
Oh my goodness. Rick, thank you for all of your time today. You were fantastic. We really appreciate it. We also want to thank Diane Blazek, Ryan Anderson, Alec didn't make it, Lyz Lenz, Daniella Pereira, Alder Scott Waguespack, and until next time, go green or
go home.
Is that it? Yes, it's over. How'd you like it? I don't know. I slept through the whole thing. Well, you didn't miss much.
By now, you've heard the great news. If you wanted to try Viagra,
Alrighty, that's all she wrote.
Okay, thank you, Nancy. I really appreciate it.
Oh, you are so welcome.
And I
we
will.
are still on Facebook, so.
Yes.
Okay.
And I'm gonna work on that and figure out why. Oh, that's not the screen I wanted.
And I know where to turn off the closed captioning if we need to do that. All right, Rick, thank you so much. Nancy, thank you. We'll talk to you soon.
Later, guys.
Thank you.
All right, bye-bye.